you talk about that narrative around Bitcoin, that it's only used for criminal activity. And I mean, you spoke about it, that narrative coming to light years ago, but it's still a narrative that's very prevalent today, especially when we hear governments speaking about Bitcoin. Tell me about what you take away from governments still spewing the narrative that Bitcoin is only for criminals and criminal activity, and we really need to get it under control.
Well, I'm not mad at it because at the end of the day, some of my background, so I was a public affairs officer in the Navy. So that's basically like doing PR for the military. I work my bosses were in the Pentagon. I've been to the Pentagon, trained there and all that good stuff. Something goes down, like literally you would get a phone call from Pentagon at 9 a.m. like, what's going on type of deal. So I've dealt with BBC, CNN, all this stuff. And I say all this because I have this military training in PR. I fully understand the scope of things, the narrative of things, and how things are shaped and formed, and for a reason. So when you talk about Bitcoin, on the surface, it does look like it will compete with the US dollar, and it is a national security concern. So if you're in any position of power as far as government regulation, you could and you can't go wrong with taking that stance. So that's the initial stance everybody took. It's like it's going to be competing with the dollar. National security is going to be issued. Everyone stops using the dollar and starts using Bitcoin, which is somewhat true. But also, as we learn more about it, Bitcoin doesn't really compete with the dollar. It actually enables it. It enables a lot of processes and transactions. So the narrative I kind of saw going early on, especially once the price was taken off, once they started to say, oh, now we want to tax it, and now this X, Y, and Z is like, there was no government help in 2016. I'm sure before, but Wild West in 2016, still, I mean, hacks left and right. We've been hacked. It's like, it's no one that can help you. But now years later, they're like, well, we want to tax you. So we want to tax you on your wins, but you make away with the losses. So it's just kind of one of those things where we saw the narrative starting to shape and form. Again, I'm not mad at it, but that is kind of the initial narrative. And this is kind of like, you got to destroy Bitcoin any means necessary. So that means calling it the bad guy, the criminal, the sex trafficking, the Ponzi schemes, or the pedophile, all the stuff they attach to it. That's part of the strategy when you're winning a war. So they're going to look at it as a thing of national security. They're fighting a war.
When you say Bitcoin enables the US dollar, what do you mean by that?
It does enable the US dollar because you can have Bitcoin as the reserve currency. It can be backed by everything like gold was supposed to be doing for the dollar. And we still actually use the dollar. And that way things are transparent still. We do have that level of transparency. If you were to do something as simple as like put your dollars on the blockchain, which is essentially what they're trying to do with the Fed coin and all of that stuff. So, but I say stuff like that also to kind of, soothe it over as a little base hit to say, we'll work together, we'll do this, we'll figure out the best way for it. But those in the space who read the white paper, they kind of already see the writing on the wall.